What excited the Khazars was that Kabbalah preached revolution. It said that Jews, as superior beings, were destined to rule the world. In the Zohar, which is the written text of Kabbalistic lore, we find the arrogance and ambition of the ancient Pharisees very much alive.
In a typical passage, the Zohar teaches, living soul refers to Israel, who have holy living souls from above, and cattle and creeping thing and beasts of the earth to the other peoples who are not living soul. Only by the overthrow of the Gentiles, the Zohar asserts, can Israel regain its position as God's Shekinah glory on earth. The Zohar calls Gentiles Amalekites. In a passage typical of many, the Zohar says they caused the destruction of the temple. So when God reveals himself, they will be wiped off the earth. Redemption will not be complete until Amalek will be exterminated. But once Israel shakes off Gentile dominion and Christian influence, heaven will descend to earth. The Zohar says Israel will fulfill her predestined role, ruling the world under the leadership of her Messiah.
Since the Kabbalah or Zohar was not merely a theological system, but taught the overthrow of the existing order, it was natural that before long Jews should begin to put it into practice. With the age of Voltaire and the so-called Enlightenment during the 18th century, we see a host of Jewish Kabbalists migrating west out of Poland and penetrating the very capitals of Europe.
In Europe, in the years preceding the French Revolution, the foundations were laid for a new order in the world. Kabbalists such as Adam Weishaupt helped establish the ultra-secret Illuminati, which became a cover for plots and intrigues that would begin the erosion of Christian civilization. At the same time, beginning with Jewish philosopher Moses Mendelssohn, many Jews began to perceive their religion not simply as a means of personal salvation, but as a way to reform society at large. Many Jews thus came out of the ghetto and took part in all the great revolutions of the 19th century, including the Revolution of 1829 and the Revolution of 1848.
Here we see the result of the French Revolution. 1/3 of the land was owned by the Catholic Church. It was confiscated and sold to the people for gold. 7,000 Roman Catholic priests were killed. The back of the Catholic Church was broken. The monarchy of France was destroyed. The Jews were emancipated in France and most of Europe. Much of France's intelligentsia were murdered and more secret societies set up around Europe. And here we see Amschel Rothschild, the eldest son of the great banking family of Rothschilds, the Jewish Banking Trust, which is the most powerful banking organization in the world.
The congregation shivered in the cold. Notre Dame echoed with the sounds of 400 musicians and singers. Napoleon Bonaparte was about to be crowned Emperor of France. If I have any ambition, he said, it is so natural to me, so intimately linked with my existence, that it is like the blood that circulates in my veins. It was December 2nd, 1804. Napoleon was 35 years old. His faith in his guiding star had been justified. Riding the tide of revolution that shook all of Europe, the young lieutenant from Corsica had ascended to the rank of general, married the woman he loved, Josephine de Beauharnais, and with victory after victory on the battlefield, made himself the most powerful figure in France.
There's this young Corsican bringing whole empires toppling, kings losing their thrones, causing this magical belief in him.
The New World Order gang created the revolution in order to overthrow the monarchy. Now, with the rise of Napoleon, the New World Order has lost control of France. October 1800. Jacobins plot to kill Napoleon with daggers. The communistic Jacobins, working for their secret New World Order Rothschild bosses in London, want their bloody dictatorship back. They openly call for the death of Napoleon. One leftist agitator named Metternich publishes a pamphlet comparing Napoleon to Roman ruler Julius Caesar, who was killed by daggers wielded by Brutus and others. Metternich openly calls for, quote, the birth of thousands of bruti to stab the tyrant Bonaparte, end quote. Indeed, one of the Jacobins' plot, which is foiled, is the Conspiration des Poignards, or Conspiracy of Daggers, in October of 1800. The Jacobins plan to stab Napoleon as Julius Caesar had been, as he arrives at the Paris Opera House. Informants are able to foil the assassination plot, but the Jacobins will again try to kill Napoleon. December 1800. Jacobin bomb nearly kills Napoleon and his wife. 2 months after the daggers plot is foiled, the Jacobins nearly succeed in blowing up Napoleon's carriage with a bomb. Plot of the Rue Saint-Nice, or the Infernal Machine. Napoleon and Josephine, who faints, both survive the massive blast, but 10 to 12 innocent bystanders are killed and dozens more injured or maimed. Napoleon uses public outrage over the bombing to annihilate the remnants of the violent and conspiratorial Red Jacobins. 1801. Napoleon makes peace with the Catholic Church. After years of persecution at the hands of the atheistic Jacobin radicals and also the Directory, Napoleon moves to protect and preserve the Roman Catholic Church that he had spared from extinction during the Italian campaign. Raised Catholic, Napoleon retains a special fondness for the moral principles and teachings of Christ. As any wise temporal ruler, Napoleon believes that matters of faith should be discussed peacefully with a free conscience. The Concordat of 1801 between Napoleon Bonaparte and Pope Pius VII reaffirms the Roman Catholic Church as the majority church of France and restores its civil status. While the Concordat restores ties to the papacy, the balance of church-state relations tilts in Napoleon's favor.
Napoleon was very mindful of the fact that money always remains in hiding and only acts through agents who are often unaware of the aims that they are pursuing. He realized that international money stood behind every foreign enemy, every monarch, and every political party, including the Jacobins, stating on one occasion that, quote, The hand that gives is above the hand that takes. Money has no motherland. Financiers are without patriotism and without decency. Their sole object is gain," unquote. He had very clear ideas as to how he wished the French economy to be run. On the subject of debt, he had this to say, quote, "One has only to consider what loans can lead to in order to realize their danger. Therefore, I would never have anything to do with them, and have always striven against them. At one time, people asserted that I did not issue loans because I possessed no credit and could find nobody who would lend me anything. That is quite false. That surely implies a very scanty knowledge of human nature and an ignorance of stock exchange methods if people imagine that I could find no one ready to lend. It was not part of my system," unquote. On the 14th of April, 1803, by means of an act of Parliament, Napoleon abolished the right of two rival banks, the Caisse d'Escompte de Commerce and the Comptoir Commercial, to issue banknotes. The new act also increased the bank's capital to 90 million francs. He was thus his own banker, who controlled both the creation and distribution of money and credit, to the chagrin of the international bankers, particularly the Rothschilds, who were virtually excluded from operating in continental markets. As a part of Napoleon's plan to assimilate Jews into French society, he issued a decree in 1808 ordering all Jews to adopt surnames and to use those names on all documents. Napoleon, in a letter to his younger brother Jerome, written in 1808, states, quote, "I have undertaken to reform the Jews, but I have not endeavored to draw more of them into my realm. It is necessary to reduce, if not destroy, the tendency of Jewish people to practice a very great number of activities that are harmful to civilization and to public order in society in all the countries of the world. It is necessary to stop the harm by preventing it. To prevent it, it is necessary to change the Jews. Once part of their youth will take its place in our armies, they will cease to have Jewish interests and sentiments. Their interests and sentiments will be French," unquote. As part of the Code Napoleon, Code Civil des François, Napoleon introduced a new commercial code on 21st of March 1804. These economic reforms, which included substantially reduced taxes, quickly turned the French economy around and resulted in increased trade and development of new industries, such as cotton making and sugar beet, which were assisted by tariffs against foreign goods and low interest rate loans. The infrastructure was upgraded on a vast scale not only in France, but throughout Western Europe, with the construction of 20,000 miles of imperial roads and 12,000 miles of regional roads, almost 1,000 miles of canals, bridges, the dredging and expansion of harbors such as Cherbourg and Dunkirk, waterworks and public buildings such as the Gallery at the Louvre, all financed with interest-free money from the Banque de France.
Napoleon Bonaparte always refused to play by these rules. He envisioned a permanent peace in Europe where these bankers could no longer make profits by inciting unjust wars. In 1803, instead of borrowing from the bank, Napoleon sold territory west of the Mississippi to the third President of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, for $3 million in gold, a deal known as the Louisiana Purchase. With $3 million gained, Napoleon quickly gathered together an army and set about conquering much of Europe, attempting to liberate it from the clutches of private bankers. Wherever Napoleon went, he found his opposition being financed by the Bank of England. All the while, the Bank of England was making huge profits as Prussia, Austria, and finally Russia all went heavily into debt trying to stop him. February 1815. The legend continues. Napoleon escapes from exile. Separated from his wife and sons, and aware of rumors that he might be shipped to a remote island in the middle of the Atlantic, Napoleon stuns Europe by escaping from Elba with a handful of supporters and soldiers in February of 1815. Soon after landing in the French mainland, a regiment of French soldiers, under orders to arrest him, confronts their former emperor. Napoleon approaches the regiment alone, dismounts his horse, and shouts, "Here I am! Kill your emperor if you wish." The soldiers respond with, "Long live the emperor," and march with Napoleon to Paris. King Louis XVIII flees. Napoleon quickly raises another army. He will once again confront the Rothschild-funded British and Prussians at the decisive Battle of Waterloo in Belgium. June 1815, the Battle of Waterloo. Again financed by the House of Rothschild, the Prussians, led by Gebhard von Blücher, and the British, led by the Duke of Wellington, amass their armies near the northeastern border of France. Napoleon is forced to preemptively attack France's enemies before they can unleash a massive coordinated invasion of France, along with other members of this latest Allied coalition. The Battle of Waterloo is fought on Sunday, June 18th of 1815, near Waterloo, in present-day Belgium. Miraculously, the French army nearly wins the great battle. It is only the late arrival of Prussian reinforcements that suddenly tilts the battle against the French. The defeat at Waterloo marks the end of Napoleon's 100 days' return from exile and ends his rule as emperor once and for all. The very word Waterloo has since been synonymous with one's final defeat. June 1815. Nathan Rothschild capitalizes upon the Battle of Waterloo.
On the 18th of June, 1815, agents of the British arm of the Rothschild family looked on as Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte fought desperately to save his army from the jaws of a British-Prussian pincer attack. A Rothschild agent was able to get the news of Napoleon's defeat at the hands of Lord Wellington to Nathan Rothschild, a full 20 hours before the news reached London. Nathan, the head of the British arm of the Rothschild family, put out the rumor to the London Stock Exchange that Napoleon had won the war. Stocks plunged by 98%, and Rothschild was then able to buy up the entire British economy for pennies on the pound. When the news of Napoleon's defeat finally arrived, stocks soared. Britain was now the undisputed ruler of Europe, and Rothschild ruled England. The already dominant British Empire grew even more aggressive. Her troops and bureaucracy spread across the globe. The sun never set on Britannia's holdings.